You never know which moments will be the ones they remember forever. So take time to be a dad today.
No, it's been raining all day. They tell me it's probably going to rain some more tonight, but we'll get through it. That's what we have to get used to when the summertime approaches. Rain. But it's still the city beautiful, and I still celebrate the state of Florida. That is the only place I choose to live and will live permanently. So we'll just deal with what we got to deal with. We got a great show lined up for you here tonight. We got a couple guests in the house. Miss Jasmine Burney is going to be back tonight with her segment, A Moment with Jazz. This is, as I said last month, we're going to start doing this on a monthly basis with Jasmine. And she's going to bring us some information. She told me earlier, talk about Trayvon Martin. Of course, the George Zimmerman trial is coming up, so I'm sure there's going to be a connection between that as we discuss Trayvon Martin with Miss Burney in a few minutes here. And then also we have Dr. Angela Kennedy stop by with us tonight. She's going to talk about her organization, the Phoenix Tree Educational Foundation. So we'll talk about that with her as well a little bit later. Let's go ahead and talk say hello to the panel, I should say. I see Jeremy's in the building. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm good. How's everybody doing?
Doing all right, brother.
Feeling real good.
I'm feeling good.
I didn't get to watch the game all the way last night, but when I saw that final score, I was happy.
Yes.
I know Miss McCray was happy, too. How you doing, Miss McCray?
Very happy. I'm better now. Really tired. I had a really busy weekend, but doing all right.
All right.
Go Heat.
Go Heat. Miss Monica, how you doing, Miss Monica?
Doing great. How you doing, J. Real?
Oh, I'm doing good, Miss Monica. It's Tuesday.
That's
as
right.
Miss McCray likes to say.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. And again, Miss Burney's in the house with us tonight. How you doing, Miss Burney?
I'm well. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right. We're going to press ahead. And we'll say hello to Dr. Kennedy a little bit later here. But jump right in before we get to Miss Jasmine here. Speaking of the Heat, so everybody watched, or a lot of the country anyway, watched the game last night and saw the Heat dominate the Indiana Pacers in Game 7.
Yes.
So the finals start on Thursday. What's the prediction, Jeremy? What's the prediction? Is it San Antonio or is it Miami?
Come on, bro. I don't even think you got to ask that.
It's Miami.
Is it Miami, brother?
Of course.
Miami? Is it how many games?
5.
Miami in 5 games, really?
Yep. I'm saying 5.
It's not a competition is what you're trying to say.
No, I didn't say that. I just said they'll go win in 5. It can be 5 close games.
Oh,
But
okay.
one person can win. You just got to win it 4 times.
4 times, and Miami's going to be that team in 5, huh? I know you're a big Heat supporter, Miss McCray. What do you say? How many
Yes.
games you got?
I think it's going to go to 7 again.
7.
I think so. Two great teams, and that would just be excellent basketball. But the Heat will win, just like they did last night.
Just like that. Is the same fashion? Will they win by 23 in Game 7?
I don't know if they're going to ever – I don't know if it's going to be like that, but they will win, whether it's 1 point or 5.
Yeah, say as long as you got the biggest, the highest score when the game's over.
Exactly.
Don't matter if it's by a point or 10 points, a point. All you care about is the W, right?
The W.
That's all we care about. Yeah, I have to agree with you, Miss McCray. I think it's going to go the distance, all 7 games. San Antonio, I think it's going to be tough. I mean, if you look at the way Tony Parker played against Memphis, if he shows up like that against the Heat, he's going to have a great game. A great series, I should say. And so I think it's going to be tough. Jeremy, I can't that 5 games, Jeremy, that just seems a little on the low end.
If the Heat play like they played, they'll win it in 4. So I'm being generous.
Oh, okay.
It's the finals. It's time to step up. Last night they said, "Hey, let's stop playing. We got a mission. Let's complete the mission, or at least let's take the first hurdle on this 800 that you used to like to run."
The 800 is a great race, brother.
I know it is. It's a man's race, you know. Well, all I'm saying is I ain't saying there's gonna be no blowouts. I just said they go win 4 games in 5. I give San Antonio one of them at home.
Okay.
But as long as they just have to approach the game with that mindset. San Antonio is not Indiana. You can't play with them.
Okay. All right. I'll move on from that. One more local story I saw. I was going to ask you guys what you thought about it. So did you see they're trying to extend the hours downtown to 3 a.m.? Extend the drinking hours 1 more hour for the entities that are downtown. What do you think about that idea? Is that a good idea, a bad idea?
Well, being that I don't partake of downtown anymore, I'd say it's a bad idea. But if I did, it's a great idea. But to be honest with you, let's just play the devil's advocate, I would say, as far as me not being down there no more. But anyway, they need to carry it on as long as they can if they're really trying to compete and be a major city. Because when you go to other major cities, they don't close till like 6 or 7 in the morning. So when you want to talk about competing and being a major city or being a player, as they say, that's the one thing that you consistently hear about people who go out and party that they hate about Orlando, is that the city shuts down too early.
City shuts down too early. Is that right, Mr. McCurry? Does it shut down too early?
It does. And I don't even kick it like I used to. But it does. Especially like he said, when you go to other big cities and downtowns and you're like, what, 2 o'clock? That's early for the kick it crew. But again, I don't do that anymore.
I know you're not kidding, Miss Monica, but do you think it's too early, Miss Monica?
I'm fine with 2 a.m. I'm in the bed at 2 a.m. They can do whatever they want. I am asleep. I don't think it's a very good idea. I think that it will cause a lot more, issues. They did talk about the crime being, increased because, when people get a longer period of time to drink, then they will drink more. And when they drink more, then other behaviors will happen that, relate to their drinking. So I think it's going to be a lot more work for the police officers, OPD, a lot more work for security. I think it's not really going to have the great impact that they really think it will. It'll be a benefit for the clubs and the bars and stuff down there, but not for the rest of the community.
What about one real quick one, Miss Burney? What you think?
So, as someone who partakes in the festivities
there we go.
that go on downtown,
yes.
I would say that would be great. And that would be fun if Orlando was built and structured to be a competitor in the party world. Orlando is built to be a family atmosphere, and that's why we have theme parks like Disney World and those family sorts of atmospheres. And so if we were designed to be competing with Las Vegas and Miami, then it would make perfect sense. But I don't think it's necessary. People really aren't coming here for our clubs because they're not that amazing. They're coming because we have theme parks. So I don't think it's necessary and not a good idea.
Oh, okay. So I think it is a good idea. I think, like you said, to compete. Obviously you can't compete with Miami. You can't compete with New York, places like that. But just as I guess you could say, if you're trying to be a booming city, which is what we're trying to build up our downtown to be, is a booming little aspect of the city. I think you have to extend those hours for where that central place that people are sort of congregating. And we're not talking about tourists for the most part, like you said. We're talking about locals. And so the locals want to be able to hang out and kind of kick it, if you will, just like they can do when they go to other cities to some extent. So I think from, supplying our local community with an opportunity to kind of hang out somewhere and not be restricted by the 2 a.m. shutoff, I think is a great thing. And then, like you say, it is going to benefit the bars and the other stores and whatever else is going to be open right along with the bars downtown to 3 a.m. or probably 4 a.m. if they're going to stop drinking at 3. So they'll probably be open until about 4. So, I think it's going to be great. We need downtown booming. We need to build it up so that we can get it as a draw to the city. And I think that's one of the things that they've been working on for a long time. And I think just extending those hours will just be a big boost to help that process. We need money in the city, man. You got that big Amway Arena down there. You gotta be able to support these things, man. You can't put all this. You can't put hundreds of millions of dollars downtown and then not want to do some kind of expansion process to kind of keep it going and thriving. And I see your point, Miss Monica, but it's like they say, it's bigger. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than the drinking and all that. So I hope it works, man. And all those other little places that are upset because they're not downtown, because I think downtown is the only place they want to extend the hours, you deal with it. You just got to deal with it. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But at the end of the day, if you got something good going on, people are going to come to your place. And then when they're done with your place, they'll just head downtown. And that's the way that'll work. But we'll go ahead and end that. And I'm going to go ahead and bring Miss Jasmine in and let her discuss her topic of the evening as we have our moment with Jazz. I'm going to have to get you some music, Jasmine.
It needs like a
I'm
background.
going to get you some music as well, Jasmine. You hear that, Brother Jeremy? You're going to have to work on that, bro.
I'll work something out.
But go
Only
ahead.
original material, though.
Only original.
I
That's-
promote nobody else.
Sounds
That's right.
good. That
That's
works.
right.
That works. So, as we all know, Trayvon Martin case, or the George Zimmerman trial, is set to begin next week. And Orlando is already being flooded with media setting up around the Seminole County courthouse. They have tents and barricades set up down there as if there's going to be a serious ambush. I think people proved last year during the peaceful protests that they were not there for violence that prompted this particular situation, but instead that they were there to peacefully protest the issue that they had with George Zimmerman allegedly shooting and killing Trayvon Martin. So it's going to be interesting to see how this entire topic unfolds. They have already made it very clear, starting from the beginning, that they are not going to sequester jurors for this particular case, so everyone will be local. It's now going to be on the onus of the prosecution and the defense to select a well-rounded group of individuals. Now, what that means to me and what that may mean to them can be completely different things. The defense may want people who have experienced a similar situation where mothers who are victims of their children being shot, or, the prosecution may want ex-police officers or people who have experienced discrimination as they have said George Zimmerman has experienced it throughout this process. Because he is in some way a victim of discrimination, and that's how he feels about how he's been represented and portrayed throughout this entire time. So it's going to be interesting to see how that jury selection is going to happen. They are going to be, as you know, also character evidence was presented into this particular trial where they had a hearing on last week, and the prosecution wanted to present all types of things against Trayvon Martin, like his previous drug use, and that use was weed, cell phone pictures of him with gold teeth, portraying him as this thug out in the street who was getting what he deserved, or that he prompted this entire situation to take place on his own life, using derogatory words on social media, and then Trayvon Martin taping a homeless men fighting, and the prosecution making it seem as though he was a part of the fight, initiated it, was a participant in some sort of fashion. So we already see that there are holes in the case. The judge completely denied every single motion that they tried to put forward as it relates to those character evidence, and I'm glad that they did. I just don't want people to take away from the fact that although the judge has done a great job with even denying extending this case beyond the point that it already is, because the prosecution has asked for it to be extended beyond the start date, that we need to be very careful when talking about this case with our friends and family, because it's a hot button topic. It's almost like we're dealing with an issue back in the civil rights movement where people couldn't peacefully protest, and we see that people are expecting us to act outraged and act outlandish and really speak about this issue negatively and turn this into a white versus black when George Zimmerman is actually a Hispanic male. And so it's going to be interesting to see how we as a community come together, or how we respond to this particular issue. Some points to prove on the prosecution side are the voice recognition. Who's actually yelling for help in the tape that they have of Trayvon Martin? It's a chilling recording if you've ever heard it. It's extremely sad, and I can't tell you who it is. I'm glad we have professionals that are going to come in and take care of that for us. I'm interested to see how long this process is going to take, though, too. We've already started comparing this to that of Casey Anthony, and then the Jodi Arias trial that just took place. So no one really knows how this is going to turn out. But I pray and hope that justice will be served in whatever capacity that is or that means for each of the families that are involved in this particular situation. Do you all have any thoughts on Trayvon Martin's case?
Well, we were actually talking about this last week, Jasmine.
Okay.
We had brought this up last week. I have a question for you first.
Okay.
So my question for you was 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. So you talked about justice being served.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is justice here? Do you have an opinion on that, or an opinion you want to share anyway?
I think that justice being served is proving who was right and who was wrong in this case, whether George Zimmerman comes out guilty or not guilty. I want to be able to watch this trial and know that the best was done and that they were both equally represented the same way. And I think that if they can prove that to a jury, then justice was served. I don't want to ever turn my television on and watch this case and say, I can't believe this is happening right before my eyes, or I can't believe the prosecution saying something that some of the information is blatantly unrelated to the case and that the judge is allowing to happen to take place. So if that doesn't happen, and that's a personal feeling, everyone has a personal feeling towards all types of issues. If I personally feel like the prosecution has done their job, the defense has done their job, and then the jury has made the best decision based off of what has been presented to them, justice will be served.
Okay. Well, some of the comments that we had made last week is, in reference to the character references that they tried to get in with Trayvon Martin. One of the comments I made is I thought that was fair, only because essentially in the trial we're going to, drag George Zimmerman's history, going back to random accusations made by family members and any other little thing that we can prove that he is done, or any other calls he's made. So I feel like if we're going to, pull all his skeletons out of the closet, if you will, it's fair to pull out. It's self-defense is what we're talking about. That's his defense, self-defense. So I think it's fair to at least hear some of the other side of what he was dealing with, because one of my criticisms is that every time I think about Trayvon Martin, I see an 11-year-old boy. And so if that's all I see, which is not what he was, there's fairness, if you will, in at least presenting who he was the day that they had this argument, as opposed to seeing him as an 11-year-old boy. And that's just my opinion on it. Miss McCrae, as always, likes to disagree with me, but I think she does it on principle sometimes. But but that's how I viewed it. As far as I do hope the trial is fair, and whatever judgments they make, the jury, I just hope they come to the right conclusion. I would disagree I would certainly disagree with them if they come to the conclusion of second-degree murder. I would disagree on that. But if whatever happens, and that's my take on it. I just don't think it was what the prosecution is accusing him of. I think that's a bit much. Nobody was. I don't think anybody was out to kill anybody that night. Again, Miss McCrae, once again, as always, disagrees with that. But but that's just my take on it. I don't know. Miss Monica, did you want to comment?
I think there still is a lot that we really don't know that the media has shared, but there's this great amount of gray area, and so it's really difficult when you see, like you said, a picture of this young boy, and you hear at least the scenario that we've been presented. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if justice is really going to be served. I'm not really sure if the jury selection is going to be what we're probably expecting. I don't think that, especially because it's in the same city that the incident occurred, that it's going to really be fair at all. Considering the population of Seminole County, considering, how just a lot of different things in Seminole County. So I'm not sure. I really am not sure. I think that the evidence that the prosecution is bringing up is completely not even related to his ability to be violent. In fact, people that frequently use marijuana are more lethargic than violent. He would want to go get something to eat and go to sleep rather than go fight somebody.
Have the giggles.
Yeah.
So I've heard.
So, and this is my professional experience, not personal. But, it just doesn't make sense. His Facebook, what does that have anything to do with his ability to go fight an adult male? So it's just really out of the ordinary. And for the judge to, I believe you said is going to allow that?
No.
Oh, she's not. Okay, well, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good that she's not going to allow that. But who knows what else they're going to try and pull out of, nowhere to make this poor boy's, character look terrible just for the sake of making it look like he's a violent child. He still was a child. So.
Correct. All the way to the point where they even wanted to, present his grades from school as evidence, and I don't think his education level had anything to do with his ability to commit a crime.
Right.
If anything, it has to do with your socioeconomic development, and he was only 16. He wasn't raising himself. He clearly had parents, 2 sets of parents,
Right.
So it's just interesting to see how they're going to piece together this entire situation. Like you were just stating, the population in Seminole County, the history in Sanford as it relates to discrimination and racism is going to be a determining factor. I almost wish they would have sequestered the jury.
I think they should sequester the jury.
Yeah.
Because it's going to dominate the news cycle locally for as long as the trial. So every night, regardless of what you try and do, you're not going to be able to eat dinner and watch TV or relax and watch TV at the end of listening to all of these testimonies all day long without turning on the television and hearing the latest news story or, well, this is what they did today in the courtroom. I mean, obviously you were there, but you're almost gonna have to shut the TV off or watch cable or something.
And this is a little far beyond the trial, but to think about the jurors also after this, and if the decision that a majority of people want after this doesn't happen.
Yeah, their neighborhood, their homes, it's about to be a mess.
But I don't know. I don't really know if I think they're gonna riot though. I don't think we'll see riots if the quote unquote right verdict is not given. I don't necessarily know that we'll have riots.
Not so much riots, but certainly in their front yard, just like the Casey Anthony trial. There's people, they had to block off their street.
I don't know. I got my brick in my car.
Okay.
I think it's going to be some targeted actions that may take place.
It's going to be rough.
Or at least at the courthouse.
Yeah.
A lot of
Oh yeah, and like I said, they're setting up those barricades ready for any and everything to take place. So we're gonna sit back and watch. I'll be watching from my home. I will not be going down to the courthouse to see this all unfold, because I don't know what's gonna happen down there.
right.
It is like you said, it's already going to be a madhouse. I'm sure Nancy Grace has already booked her flight. She'll probably be here soon.
They should ban her from doing any commentary on issues like this. She's the worst.
And they always end up terrible after the
I'm sure she'll have her flight booked. I'm sure she's already here. She's probably already here, and her truck and her that station is already here
Doing
and ready to go.
pre-commentary and pre-analysis.
Exactly. 24-hour news coverage is what we're going to have down there, and it's going to be interesting. I do think the jury pool is probably not going to be as diverse as people want, and I think that's actually going to probably help the defense in that case. And then when you think about the gun laws and stand your ground and all that kind of stuff, I think all of that really helps the defense, because any attack, like a second-degree murder charge, is almost going to be an attack against the gun laws, an attack against stand your ground. So I wouldn't be surprised if this goes a little left of what people are thinking. It's quite frankly, I think it probably will, to a lot of people's surprise. I just think sort of like they did with Casey Anthony, they're really just overreaching on the charge as far as what they can actually prove. And so, because at the end of the day, it's not about it's about proving it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Correct.
So if I have any doubt to your case, then technically the law says I'm supposed to vote not guilty. So that's going to be the key. Can you really prove that there was second-degree murder, some kind of intent that night. And if you can't, sorry, the law says you got to let them go.
And that could be the detriment to the trial.
So we'll see what happens, man.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
A question I posed to J. Real last week when we were talking, what would you, since he's against the second-degree murder charge, what type of consequence, because I believe he deserves some type of consequence for his actions, what do you think his consequence should be?
This is beyond my educational training, but standard person on the street, regular day living, I would definitely say that there is an assault charge here. I don't want to say that there is or isn't a murder charge, because I don't know everything. I want to listen to the entire case. I want to listen to all the evidence and then make my own conclusion before a judge does or the jury does. But assault for sure, maybe harassment, but I don't want to say anything beyond that point because I could be thoroughly wrong once that information is provided, and I don't want to even open up those floodgates.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll find out. June 10th
Yes.
is the first day of jury selection. June 10th. So we'll see how it goes. So we thank you, Jasmine, for coming down.
Moments with Jazz.
A moment with Jazz.
Love it. Have a good evening, you guys.
All right, you too, Jasmine. We appreciate you for coming down.
Thank you, Jazz.
407-894-1680 is the number here. 407-894-1680. So as we said, the whole city, especially the city of Sanford, is getting ready for what is probably going to be a very interesting month, or however long that trial takes place down in Sanford at the courthouse. Certainly a lot more news action than they are used to down in Sanford, Florida. I think it's probably been since one of those rallies that they had down there, since they had so much coverage in Sanford, Florida. So it's going to be interesting. We'll see how it goes. Let's go ahead and bring in our next guest here tonight, Dr. Angela Kennedy. How you doing, Dr. Kennedy?
I'm well, and you?
I'm doing pretty good, Dr. Kennedy. So Dr. Kennedy came down to, again, talk about her organization, the Phoenix Tree Educational Foundation. So just let's start with letting the people know who you are, Dr. Kennedy.
Well, as he said before, I'm Dr. Angela Kennedy, and I'm a native Floridian. I've lived in Orlando, actually, all of my life, received all of my education here in Orange County Public Schools. And I've been an educator with Orange County Public Schools for the past 13 years. And this vision of Phoenix Tree Educational Foundation has been something that I've desired to do for about 3 years, and I finally just got enough will and courage to step out and do what I feel is necessary for the children in our city.
Awesome. So we were talking, and one of the things that you do with your foundation is there's a tutoring portion of it, and so talk about well, before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about what makes your foundation, your tutoring and the education that you bring different from what's already being brought in public schools.
Okay. Well, Phoenix Tree Educational Foundation is really the parent company, if you will, or the actual nonprofit. And housed within Phoenix Tree Educational Foundation is Deeper Root Academy, which is the actual school portion of it. And then there's also a Brighter Day Enrichment Services. What we're working on and really focusing on right now is Deeper Root Academy. That is our school that will be preschool to 8th grade. And really our focus is, it is a Christian-based private school with a focus really on the multiple intelligence. And what makes that different is in our school system, the way it's set up now, we have what they call differentiated instruction, and we're trying to meet the students' needs. But what we're really not doing is focusing on how children are smart. We think about the assessments that are done and the grades that students are making, and we're thinking about FCAT and all these things. And those are just simple different demonstrations of a child's ability, but it doesn't really give the whole picture. And with multiple intelligence, you're really teaching children based on how they learn best so that they can actually give you the information that you're looking for that really defines who they are as a student.
Okay. All right. Now, I did, I know this is a piece brought on by the gentleman's name is Howard Gardner,
Yes.
Dr. Howard Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's get into some of the things that you're talking about when you say multiple intelligences. What are these different intelligences that you're talking about?
Okay, well, traditionally, we are probably mostly familiar with 3 types of learners. We understand that there's auditory, that means you learn by hearing. There's visual, you learn by seeing. And then there's kinesthetic, where you learn by doing. And those are good, and we all have those types, or one of those types of abilities. But what Dr. Howard Gardner, who is out of Harvard, has discovered is 7 multiple intelligence that we all possess. And some are more prominent in others. And so when you can teach or learn to your intelligence, then you will actually do or perform better. So the intelligence are visual, spatial, and these are people who would be more like your architects, people who like geometry, people who have good spatial sense. And then you have bodily kinesthetic, of course, people who are very tactile learners who have to do with action and they have to have movement. And then you have musical intelligence, and musical intelligence is one I feel like that is largely underrepresented in, especially in our African American communities and in our Title I schools and things like that, because we have as a culture a lot of history with music and understanding music and rhythm and beats. And what I've noticed as being a classroom teacher, that a lot of these children remember or can maintain or understand information when you give them rhythm, when you give them rhyme, when you give them music. Unfortunately, we have a approach that we have in the school systems that is very narrow, and it works for the average student. The average student, the average performing student will be okay in the traditional approach that we have in our school systems now. But it doesn't work for our kids who are struggling, and it doesn't really work for our kids who are gifted. A lot of times we don't really give our children who are gifted the push to move further. They just really just do well, and we label them our smart kids, but really we're not doing them a service either. And then we have our children who are struggling, and that's largely in part to a lack of exposure, probably very early on, lack of vocabulary enrichment and things like that. And so a lot of times you can teach children these things, but if they understand a certain way and you don't teach that way, when you ask them to produce what you've given them, they're not going to be able to do it. It doesn't mean that they don't know it. They just can't give it to you the way you're asking for it. And I think that's a big misrepresentation that we have with some of our formal assessments that we give our students. So it looks like they don't know what we've taught them all year, but they really do, but you're not asking them the right way. And so that's really the premise behind that multiple intelligence. So musical is one I think is large, especially in our poverty schools, in our areas where lower economic status are. They need that type of intelligence. A lot of them are very strong in that. So that's why you see in a lot of our high schools, the band is really big or the choir is really big, but that's their only outlet to do that. And they excel and do really well. But when you look at their academics, it doesn't show a real representation of how gifted that child really is. And then there's interpersonal. Those are people who are really good with interacting with others. Again, sometimes these children who are very social beings sometimes are labeled the class clown, or they're very disruptive in class, but really that's to their intelligence. But if you're only expecting them to be one way and you're not really playing to their giftedness, then again, they're going to be misrepresented in the classroom. Another one is intrapersonal, someone who's very aware of themselves, is a goal setter. They are sometimes shy, don't really work with groups well. But again, if you're expecting this cooperative learning grouping and they're not doing well, it doesn't mean that they don't understand information. That's just not the way they learn best. And then you have linguistic is another, and the last one is logical mathematical. Logical mathematical is more of the reasoning, calculating, being able to think abstractly and conceptually. So I just really, the basis of our curriculum, of course, we're still doing the standards, the state standards, the Common Core standards that we have within our county and in our state, but we want to actually allow children the opportunity to present their information and present the material to them in multiple formats and allow them to demonstrate their knowledge in multiple formats instead of the traditional way through the benchmark assessments or what we have, the FCAT, which is soon going away.
Yay.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yay.
Yay, that was a bad idea.
Yeah, it really was. Terrible. Yay.
Terrible idea.
You know, it's so funny when you talk about the musical. It's if you meet a kid, they can pick up a song and know every lyric. I was that kid. I could hear a song one time. Still to this day, I can hear it. And I guess, like you said, the rhythm and the cadence of the sounds, the music, and I know the lyrics the next time I hear the song. But then when I go in my textbook, I need to reread and do something else to understand it. And it's like, man, my crazy butt used to try to make up songs to like my chemistry book, and it wasn't cool. I needed help. But that was, I figured that's how. Okay, if I know music so quickly, why can't I pick up this? So the fact that your school is trying to implement some of these things and learn different ways of learning is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. You just want to give kids an opportunity because assessing students, which is something that we're big on, is assessment. But it's really important to be careful about how you're assessing these students, because who's to say that if I presented some material to the student and they could show me, through a written assignment, or maybe they are a creative student, they maybe could write a poem to show me that they understand that benchmark or understand that concept that was taught, or maybe they can write a song, or they can act it out. But we don't allow that as our form of grading students. And I just really think that we're missing the ball with a lot of kids. And so instead of really closing the gap, which we love to say in education, we're closing that gap, we're actually making it wider. And we're not going to get on top of it. So it's going to be increasingly worse, which is what we've seen in the last, 10 years that we've had this FCAT assessment.
Right, because all the FCAT does is really just ask these bunch of random questions, that don't even really flow with what they're actually learning in the classroom anyway. I remember I taught in Orange County Public Schools as well for a time. And then I met some middle school students that changed my mind. Whatever. But one of the things I noticed is, they, like you said, they have the standards and the way that the lesson is supposed to be presented and whatnot. But when you go to look at the different questions that they were asked, it never really followed the way that the lesson was being taught to them all year. And even on the high school level, I saw that one. And sometimes you were getting questions about material that you haven't even covered yet. And so, it's quite difficult, to a lot of times get the answer right when you've had the material, but let alone be asked questions for material that you haven't even been exposed to. Just makes it even more challenging and then confusing for the students as they try and keep up with whatever standard that you had placed before them. So definitely a change needed to happen, and glad a change is coming. Now looking at all of these multiple intelligences, intelligencies, sorry about that. What, how in because I'm sure you use this in the tutoring portion of what the foundation does. So how in the tutoring process are you able to kind of blend, and is there a test that you give the students to figure out where they are first, or how is that process?
Yeah, actually, what the cool thing is that we not only assess the students, but we assess the instructor. And so we're not looking at just multiple intelligence. We're looking at whether you're left brain or right brain, because the teacher teaches the way that they learn. And so if you have a teacher that is, let's say, a right brain learner, and they teach that way, you don't want to have children that are completely left-brained in their classroom because they're missing it. And it's not really the teacher's fault per se, because they're just teaching what they have and how they learn and what they know. So really what we try to do, especially in our tutoring program, which is actually a different company, it's Learning Tools Tutoring, and we actually assess the teacher and see how they learn, because that is how they're going to teach, and try to pair those children with that tutor so the children actually make that connection, because it's really all about making the connection. And unfortunately, that's what happened. That is not happening in the school system, because, we can't really control who comes in the classroom, and teacher they go to. It's just an assignment based on numbers. And then we don't give teachers, unfortunately, a lot of latitude with what they can do. There's a lot of mandates and regulations for teachers in the way that, and the freedom that they have to present material. So it's just one of the reasons why I went to go in private school rather than being a charter, because there are just certain regulations that you must follow, and I really want to be able to be out the box and provide the best education possible without many constraints from limiting me with the way that I can present material to students.
Oh, that's clever. That's different. To find out where the teacher is and then match the student that is going to fit better with what type of learning that teacher provides. That's pretty cool, actually. You don't see that kind of dedication. I can see why. I remember in the reading you talked about the success that you do have with that, with the tutoring program. What did you say? The students that release always or one grade reading level grade ahead after by the time they're done
at least have at least attained grade level. And even we were working with students who are in Title I schools and prepping them for FCAT and things like that. And last year when we were actually participating in those different schools, we had probably about 25 students in our program, and no one scored level 1 on the FCAT. Awesome. And that's a pretty tough assessment, especially if you're a struggling reader. It's very intense. It requires a lot of focus.
Right.
Definitely. Are the current tutoring, is the tutoring students that you guys work with, is that in that pre-K to 8th grade level, or are you working with high school students as well?
No, actually the tutoring is really preschool to 5th grade. And we're branching out to extend to middle school, because I've had students that have been with me since they've been in pre-K, tutoring every year, and now they're going to 6th grade, which is posing a situation. And so, I care about these kids. I've had them for a long time, so I just really want to make sure that I can provide that opportunity for them too. And who knows, they stay with me through middle school, then I'll probably be transitioning to high school too.
Exactly. That's awesome. That's awesome. So going back to the Deeper Root Academy, is that what it's called?
Yes.
Okay, Deeper Root Academy. So as that kind of develops, what are some of the things that the teachers there in your academy are going to be doing that's going to be different from what the traditional?
Well, one of the things we know we have to do is we have to actually prepare our students for the world that they live in. And so technology is actually going to be key. The teachers will have to be very comfortable with technology and the use of it, and actually being very interactive in the classroom. So yes, the students will have iPads. Yes, even in the classroom, they'll be interactively working with the student. They may be emailing and posting assignments, because in the real world, that's what they're doing. And sometimes you have instructors that are a little afraid of all of that technology, but the kids already know it. I mean, you can go in the classroom now, and sometimes the teacher may not know. I don't even know how to turn on this smart board. The kids know how to do it. And so if they're already born with it, this is what they live in. This is reality for them. If we don't allow them to have that exploration in a controlled environment where we're actually teaching them the appropriate way to use technology, then when they actually leave and go out in our world, they're not going to be successful, and they're definitely not going to be prepared.
Awesome. That's great. I mean, that is definitely a big plus. Technology, just like you said, even if you're talking about going to school and college, a lot of colleges are doing just that. I mean, more and more colleges are going online.
Absolutely.
And even you talk about the governor, Rick Scott. not the biggest fan. He doesn't have a lot of fans out there. But one of the ideas that he brought forth was the idea of like creating a $10,000 bachelor's degree, and this idea that pretty much if you're going to do something like that, it's going to be online. Because you can't put it in a building, and it's never going to happen. But so having that ability and getting used to the idea of how an online class works that'll be huge. That'll be huge for them, because I think that's one of the challenges adults face in doing online, is this idea of having to get used to posting on post board every week and keeping up with these assignments, and having an instructor that I'll pretty much never see and only communicate via email. That seems so foreign to a lot of adults, which kind of shies them away from doing the online. But I think that'll be excellent, especially with the iPad.
Yeah, it's all about connections. It's the same with making things relevant to students. A lot of times they're taught things, and the biggest question they have is, why do I need to know that? Well, one of the other components of the school is actually having within our school a city within the school. So yeah, there's an internet cafe. Yes, there's a store. Yes, there's a restaurant. There's a post office. Those types of opportunities that are run by the students, because they need to understand how to do that. I mean, I remember it was a long time before I learned how to write a check or balance a checkbook, and really you don't really do that now. You pay your bills and everything online. So if we are still back in the Stone Age, just saying you got to learn how to write this check, yes, you do need to know it, but we also need to teach you how to do online and online banking, and how to be secure and these types of things, and what information is good and not good, and what's safe and not safe, and just making things relevant for students. So this is why you need to know percents, because when you go to the restaurant, you have to pay a 15% gratuity, and you need to know that in your head. You need to know how to figure these things out. Or you can't go in the store and ask the people, what does it mean when you say 30% off? How much is that? I'm going to need you to know how to figure that out.
There's an app.
Yeah, there's an app.
Right.
And they probably know the app too.
Pull out my phone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really about that experience and it's making those connections, because once the kids make the connections, that's where the whole deeper root stems from. It's a deeper root. It's a deeper connection to your learning, so that you actually hold on to it. Because unless you make a memory for it, it will not go to your long-term memory, and that's what doesn't happen. We don't use a lot of tools like graphic organizers and technology and role play and things like that in the classroom, which is what creates memories. When something is tied to a memory, you remember it, because you can play a song that you heard a long time ago, and you remember what you were doing and who you were with
Child.
when you heard it.
Stop reminiscing, Mr.
Yeah. So it's about making those connections, and once you do that and tie a memory to it, then the students can hold on to the information, and you're not reteaching the same thing every year.
Awesome. 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680. If you got any questions for Dr. Kennedy, sure she'd love to hear from you. At this point, Dr. Kennedy, my biggest question is, so when does this start, and how many students are you taking? Because I got a few years, Dr. Kennedy. Well, I may have to call you.
That's a good question, and that's actually what our focus is on right now. We're actually in our big fundraising campaign. We have a page on GoFundMe.com. You can go right to our website at www.phoenixtree.org. Make donations, make a pledge, and basically. I don't know that I will actually set a limitation at this point. I'm really going to be only limited to the size of my building, and what codes and policies and what inspections say are allowable things. But I definitely one of the locations that we're looking at and securing has large acreage, and there's vacant property next to it, and that's really what we're trying to secure. So we'd have probably in excess of about 20 acres of land to do what we need to do and build what we want to build, because it's not just about their education. It's also about that enrichment component that we want to have to really enrich the whole family. And provide opportunities for the family, and with community development, helping the parents understand how to teach your kids, because your kids probably know a lot more about this technology and the education that's coming forth now than you do, and kind of help parents stay abreast of everything. So that's what we're looking for. Right now we're looking for a location so we can open. We have everything ready, enrollment packets, all that stuff ready, but we're just going to finalize probably in the coming week where we're going to actually physically be located so that we can put that information out. So it will be on the website. You just got to stay tuned and keep checking in on us.
And tell me the website again.
www.phoenixtree.org.
www.phoenixtree.org. So the parents better check that out, man. It definitely sounds like Dr. Kennedy has got it going on, as they say, when it comes to this Deeper Root Academy. Speaking about parents, is there anything you would encourage parents to do to kind of, help figure out maybe what type of learner they have, and then things they might be able to do at home to encourage the learning process?
Absolutely. There's a wealth of knowledge on the internet. I know they say don't believe everything you hear on the internet, but there are lots of tools that you can use to find out the child's multiple intelligence, and also if they're left or right brain. And you can actually just Google it and find different assessments that you can give children to find that out. And even for yourself, there's one on Literacy Works. I believe it's literacyworks.org, where you can go online and actually take the assessment to see your own multiple intelligence, and even you can do your student and find out, because once you can tap into how they learn, then you'll really see how smart they are, because that's really what it's all about, is how they learn. So that's what I would suggest. And the biggest thing that I would stress to parents is exposure. Most of our children struggle because of a lack of exposure. And really, when you think about child development, starting from the beginning, after about 14 weeks, the baby can hear in the womb. And it really starts then. You really need to start talking and reading and exposing the child at that point, and not exposing them with what we call traditionally baby talk. I mean, the regular vocabulary that you use, because that's what expands their vocabulary. And the more connections you can make at their younger age is what happens with the synapses in their brain. So in the early ages, between 0 and 4 years old, the more you expose them, the more connections their synapses are going to make in their brain. And once they get a dedicated role, then they stay. And if they don't, they die. So, we used to hear it's killing your brain cells. Well, it is. If you're not exposing and making those connections for kids, or allowing them to have those connections, from the very early on stages, then that limits their brain functionality or their brain capability. And so it's really important from the very beginning to read and to allow them opportunities, even taking field trips. And I'm not saying you got to take these expensive vacations and elaborate things. You can, most places are a click away from the computer to have photos and opportunities to view things, but it's about giving them opportunities, to taking them on field trips, having conversation. That's one thing that we don't do a lot of. Actually sit at the table and have conversations. That's how you develop their vocabulary, and letting them have that opportunity, because what happens on a lot of these standardized testing, they are culturally biased. And so you have kids that are coming from limited experience and having to answer questions about, like our kids asking questions about snow or a camel. We have kids that you show them a camel, what are they going to relate that to? The cigarettes. Because that's their experience about a camel. They don't understand about a desert and things like that. These are conversations that you can have. And a shout out to the Dollar Tree. They are really stepping up. That is inexpensive. They have a whole education section with books and flashcards and sight words and all kinds of things. So even if you don't even go to the dollar store, you can make them yourself. So there's no real excuse for a parent not giving that kid exposure. It's just the time. You have to invest that time, because if you don't do it up front, you're going to catch it in the end.
Awesome.
Wow.
407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680. You guys got any other questions for Dr. Kennedy here?
Well, I actually I'm really excited to hear about the different mini cities that you're going to have in different programs. In my former life, I was also an educator in high school at ESC, so it was pretty hardcore. But one of the things that one of the courses that I taught was career education, and a lot of my students, they did not know much about managing a bank account. They did not know much about even what kind of career they should choose, and what does that mean when you choose a job that makes
$7 an hour. How much money are you going to take home? And that there's someone called the IRS, and they're going to take your taxes, and that this is how much you really are going to take home. And you have all of these bills. We actually had a life game that they, actually, I gave them checks at the end of the week, and they had all these bills, and I came back. I was the landlord. I was the electricity company. I was the water bill. And I came by, and I, in fact, had one student say, Miss Clayton, I don't have enough money for all of this. I need to get a different job.
Absolutely. Yeah,
because
a
lot of a lot of our students think that, and children think that, money just flows from this, this universe that just never ends, and that they can get away with having all these luxury items, and that there aren't costs and consequences to every decision. And so I think that's awesome, especially that they're working those stores, so they see the value of work and how promotions and how to actually get things being accountable for their jobs is really, really good. So commend you on that. I think that's great.
Yeah, well done.
Gotta prepare them.
Definitely got to prepare them, man.
Oh, yeah.
They need it.
Yes,
They need it. They need it, like you say, they need it from the job perspective. Then they need that long-term preparation so that they understand how to move forward, how to understand retirement, and how the Social Security play in all of that, and everything that's going to happen to them in life, because they typically, like you said, they have no real clue. And especially a lot of our inner city kids, don't have that direction to help them figure it out either. So I definitely think Deeper Root Academy is going to be a needed thing, and I look forward to seeing it open. Please stop back by when you're ready, and come talk about it, and
Absolutely.
and give us all the info so that the parents can find you, and we'll go from there. We thank you for coming on, Dr. Kennedy.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead and one more time, let people know how to find you and how to keep up with what you're doing.
Okay. Our website, again, is www.phoenixtree.org. All of our information is on the website, all the links to Deeper Root Academy and other parts of our vision. You can send us emails straight through there. The phone number is listed there. It's 321-348-TREE, 8733. So feel free to call us, email us. Be sure to be happy to share information with you. We're working on a lot of opportunities, even with being able to offer scholarship, because we know that we have capability to offer McKay Scholarship and the Step Up program, which a lot of people utilize. So definitely getting final approval for all of those things so that we can offer this education for everybody, because all of the children need it, because it's scary if they're not prepared, because they're going to be taking care of us.
Right.
At some point, they're going to be making decisions, and they're going to be in offices and political offices, presidents, and all that stuff one day. So we need to educate them. We need to educate them.
Absolutely. Stay in school.
Definitely. As long as you can.
Absolutely.
Especially in today's market, because high school degree is usually not enough now.
Right.
A bachelor's degree is not enough in a lot of cases, and you got to go and get those graduate degrees and masters and PhDs. Like Dr. Kennedy here.
My shiro.
All that will definitely be necessary. We thank you, Dr. Kennedy, for coming by.
Thank you so much for the
And like I
opportunity.
said, please, when it's all up and running and you're doing your enrollments, come back by and let us know how people can enroll.
Absolutely.
And get in contact and get in that school. Like I said, I got a couple years, Dr. Kennedy, but so you got plenty of time for me.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
So we look forward to that. We're gonna winding down here. I'd like to thank again Dr. Kennedy for coming by. I thank Miss Jasmine Burney for coming by and talking about the George Zimmerman trial coming up. Again, she'll be here every first Tuesday of the month, so she'll be back the first Tuesday in July as well. Remember, you can find the show on Facebook, find the show on Twitter, find the show on YouTube. Real Family Talk is what you're looking for in all of those places. So definitely keep on the lookout for us. We're definitely going to keep bringing you interesting conversations with great people. So look out for us. Again, I thank everybody every month. Thank the panel, Miss McCrae, Miss Monica, and Jeremy for putting up with me every week. We appreciate that too.
We try.
It's been pretty good though lately.
You
You haven't had to do a whole lot of
last week
straightening it
was a
out,
little-
Miss.
Well, you
McCrae.
haven't talked too much about the president either.
Last week. Right. Shout out to Rashad Gunter.
Yes,
class
definitely
of
shout out to
2013.
Rashad Gunter, class of 2013. We'll see you next week. This is 1680
Follow us on
AM.
Facebook, Real Family Talk. You can follow us on Twitter, Real Family Talk. The website, realfamilytalk.weebly.com.
WOKB, Winter Garden, Orlando.